Israel's President Herzog is set to address Congress later on this morning. He visited the White House yesterday and assured President Biden Israel remains committed to democracy as concerns about its hardline government continue to grow. Meanwhile, the House passed a Republican-led resolution yesterday reaffirming its support for Israel. And it comes after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called Israel a, quote, racist state. She later apologized for that comment. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is following the latest from Capitol Hill. Scott, good morning. Good to see you. All right, Scott. So, Scott, what was discussed between President Biden and Israel's president at the White House yesterday?
Yeah, this meeting at the White House one day before this remarks before the joint meeting of Congress included discussions of climate change, the pandemics, also a joint effort, a mutual effort by Israel and the United States to prevent Iran from furthering its nuclear weapons ambitions. There's so many joint areas of interest for these two allies, but there's also a reality that is striking at this moment, Anne-Marie. The United States government, the Biden administration, and some members of Congress have concerns about the Israeli government's efforts to overhaul, if not reform, their judiciary, their judicial system. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made moves toward that have caused concern and some heartburn, some diplomatic issues here in the U.S. government. So Isaac Herzog, in his meeting with the president, talked about that yesterday, and we'll see what he says about it today when he has this unique moment, this meeting and these remarks before a joint meeting of Congress.
Yeah, not everyone gets an opportunity to speak before the Congress, so it is certainly a special thing to do. That being said, what you're alluding to is the tensions between the Biden administration and, in particular, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Can you talk a little bit more about why what is happening in Israel is of such concern to the Biden administration?
And it's not just a matter of the overhaul of the judiciary, which causes concern not just with the Biden administration, but with any number of members of Congress as well. But there is a sense that Prime Minister Netanyahu is a center-right or a more conservative leader of Israel, which is going to cause any number of concerns among Democrats here in Washington who believe some of the policies enacted by the Israeli government don't fit the standards of what they believe Israel should be doing. You heard about the comments from Congresswoman Jayapal, who adjusted the comment when she said it's a racist state to say that there are racist policies being enacted in Israel. And when the president of Israel comes to the United States for what is typically a bipartisan moment, a meeting of a joint session, a joint meeting of Congress, remarks to both parties in both chambers, that's typically a moment that transcends politics. And it may for President Herzog, but it's difficult, if not impossible at this moment, to transcend American politics. There are Republicans who will spend this day criticizing Democrats for having been critical of Israeli policies. After this remarks from President Herzog, we expect Republicans to have their own news availabilities, their own news conferences, Anne-Marie, to criticize Democrats, some of whom won't be showing up today. There will be some who boycott this speech, these remarks. So there's not really a nonpartisan moment possible in the U.S. Congress in 2023. We'll see that play out as this day develops here in Washington.
All right, we certainly will. Scott, thank you very much.